Good morning and welcome to the new Suicide Attempt Survivor Group support webinar for DPH providers. Today, Allison Brill and I, Brandy Brooks, will serve as your moderators for this webinar. For those joining on the call that do not know us, we are the rapping, singing, drumming, all-around cool contract managers for the Massachusetts Department of Public Health Suicide Prevention Program. Before we get started this morning, I would like to go over a few housekeeping issues, and you see them on your screen right now. First, to join the video portion of the webinar, please go to www.readytalk.com and under Participant Join a Conference, enter 624-5494. Again, that is 624-5494. On the next screen, you will be prompted to enter your name and email address and then click the green Register for this meeting button. Second, to join the audio portion of the webinar, please dial 1-866-740-1260. Again, that's 1-866-740-1260 and enter the passcode 624-5494. Again, that's 624-5494. Third, should anyone experience any technical difficulties with either the audio or video for this webinar, please dial 1-800-843-9166. Again, that's 1-800-843-9166, and a Ready Talk representative will be more than happy to help. Lastly, all telephone lines are muted except the one Allison and I are using. So please use the chat function located in the lower left-hand corner to type any questions you may have. When we are doing group share, all you would need to do is press *7 to unmute your line. But don't do that right now. We'll do that later on in the presentation. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started this morning. So just to give a little background, we'd like to start with this Schneidman quote from The Suicidal Mind from 1996, where he writes that our best route to understanding suicide is directly through the study of human emotions described in plain English in the words of a suicidal person. And so to kind of frame our conversation this morning, we're actually going to start with a PSA that was released by SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, from their Stories of Hope and Recovery series. So we'll watch that, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we got to where we are now, where as the Massachusetts Suicide Prevention Program, we focus on attempt survivors as one of our populations. And again, to hear the video, you will need to turn up the volumes on your computers.
Suicide doesn't stand alone. It doesn't just happen as the result of nothing out of nowhere. It's the result of something.
I was a mess before I was diagnosed. I was sick, and my thoughts were so scattered and so psychotic at that point. I was very afraid because I didn't know where I was. I did not know what was going to happen to me.
I was a popular student. I was one that was always smiling, always laughing. If you saw me in a hallway, you would think that's the last person in the world to have depression.
I was in a very self-destructive mode. I was drinking more alcohol. I was taking painkillers. I was suicidal.
When I had these suicidal thoughts of not wanting to be here, I didn't know how to talk to anyone because I figured I was the only one who had those thoughts and emotions. And if I told someone I'm having these thoughts of not wanting to be here, I just figured that the automatic reaction would be I have to go to a psych ward. I have to go to a mental hospital. I knew that 9 stories, it was a miracle that I was alive.
There's a lot of things that happen in your life that you can't choose. You know, there's losses, there's abuse, there's traumas. The one thing that can never be taken away from you is your ability to choose how to respond.
I firmly believe that life turns around when you take ownership of your problems.
I didn't know that there were other people going through the same type of issues, the same type of problems, that there would ever be anyone else that would have suicidal thoughts.
Instead of somebody saying, you need to get help, when I knew I needed help and when I asked for the help, I really believe that's when my life started to turn around.
I wish I did speak up about my emotions, about my feelings, because I could have heard someone else say, well, I go through those struggles as well.
So again, this video really highlights the importance of the attempt survivor voice being at the suicide prevention table. And so just briefly to look at kind of nationally where we've come in terms of including the suicide attempt survivor voice at the table, it really started in September 2005. Lifeline created a subcommittee for consumers and survivors to kind of advise, like, what are some of the most effective treatments, what are the most effective ways to reach this population, what are the most effective ways to serve this population. And then from there, the next month, there was the first national conference for survivors of suicide attempts, healthcare professionals, clergy, and lay people, and it was held by the Organization for Attempters and Survivors of Suicide in Interfaith Services, or OASIS. And from there, the movement just continued until 2011, the National Action Alliance for Suicide Prevention kind of formed the Suicide Attempt Task Force. And from there, it is really kind of mushroomed and ballooned. And if you want more information kind of the history of the attempt survivor movement, the national movement, you can go to the website listed on the slide. But the thing we really want to focus on today is, what are we doing here in Massachusetts, and what are you guys doing here in Massachusetts? And as all of you on the call may or may not know, for the RFR that we released in FY14, as I said previously, we included attempt survivors as a priority population. We really wanted to pay special attention and, as we know, include that voice at the table, that very important voice that Schneidman referenced back in 1996. And so, as well, at our Suicide Prevention Conference, for any of you that have attended, and it is coming up April 29th and 30th. If you have not registered, please do so. Sorry for the shameless plug. But for the last 5 years, we have had attempt survivors on the second day of our conference. We've had Terry Wise, who you saw in the video. We've had Kevin Hines. We've had Craig Miller and others. This year, we're going to have DeQuincy Lazine on the second day. So again, we are making a really concerted effort to include the attempt survivor voice. As well, one thing we are currently working on, it's in development, is we are creating a page on our website, our DPH website, dedicated to attempt survivors and also the resources that are available to attempt survivors here in our state and nationally. And so from there, I'll turn it over to Allison, who will kind of summarize what each of the providers that we received information on are doing for attempt survivor groups in Massachusetts. And then we'll kind of just open it up for some group share opportunities.
Thank you, Brandy. Good morning, everyone. This is Allison Brill. Thank you again for joining us. As many of you are, working on providing services and supports to attempt survivors in many different ways, and we're really focusing on folks who are starting up new attempt survivor support groups, or and also those of you who have been working on them for some time, to really share challenges and successes with each other. So I'm just going to highlight some of the work that's going on, starting with Samaritans on Cape Cod and the islands are developing an 8-week support program for suicide attempt survivors called A Second Chance. This is going to begin in April. It'll be a closed group facilitated by 2 Samaritan-trained volunteers, and at least one will be an attempt survivor themselves. It's for ages 18 and up, and a phone intake is required to participate in the group. And next up is Haywood Hospital. They also have a suicide attempt survivor support group that just started. It's meeting once a month at Haywood Hospital from 6:30 to 8 p.m. This group is open to all people who have attempted. They've met once and had one attendee in the process of trying to get more folks. It's facilitated by an attempt survivor who is also a veteran. Family Services of the Merrimack Valley is planning to run a closed 8-week group with 6 to 10 participants meeting at Family Services. They're aiming for May 6th to June 24th. And the group will be led by Craig Miller, attempt survivor. And a clinician from Family Services will also sit in on the group in case she's needed. Community Counseling of Bristol County is organizing the Re-Energize and Reconnect Attempt Survivor workshops. These workshops are intended for those attempt survivors who are in an active part of the community as a whole. The group may have no other connection to attempt survivors. And they're meeting once a month, 2-hour retreat-style types of workshops. They had one meet and greet, and the turnout was fairly light. This is a partnership between Bristol County Regional Coalition for Suicide Prevention and Community Counseling of Bristol County. And last but not least, Tapestry Health, for a number of years, has been running alternatives to suicide peer support groups. And this is a partnership with the Western Mass Recovery Learning Community, or RLC. So people are encouraged during groups to share their successes and challenges and provide support for one another and strategize and share ideas. There are currently groups that each meet weekly. There's one in Northampton, Greenfield, Springfield, and Pittsfield. All right. Okay, so now that we've kind of summarized, and if anyone's interested, we will be sending out the slides and a link to today's webinar as it is being recorded. But what we'd like to do is kind of hear from you. What are the things that you have felt starting up your support groups have been the challenges, and then we'll get later to some of the successes. So we'll start with Family Services of Merrimack Valley. So if there is anyone on the call from Family Services of Merrimack Valley, please press *7 to unmute your line and jump right in. Anyone from Family Services?
Is it working now?
Yes, it is. We can hear you.
It's Rhiannon. So far, do you want me to just talk kind of about like what we've been doing, or?
Yeah, like and specifically kind of some of the challenges you've encountered as you're starting up and things like that, because I believe what we saw in the service delivery report was that the attendance was kind of light. So I don't know if there have been any conversations about increasing attendance, or just some of the challenges you've seen.
Yeah, so far, Debbie has had a few people contact her interested in the group, so we're hoping that they're going to come out when we start. As far as some other challenges, it's basically when we were trying to find a clinician do the group with us, that was kind of a little bit of a challenge because we wanted to make sure that not only Craig, the facilitator, was having good self-care, but anyone else in the group that had any issues during was able to get some support there. So that was a little bit of an issue, but we were able to find someone inside of our agency to help us with that. But as far as participation, I think Debbie has about 3 people that have contacted her so far. So we're working on right now is just getting like flyers out there and just kind of getting word of mouth around to see if we can get other people. So hopefully in the next coming weeks before we start, we'll have a decent group of people. Since it is a closed group, so we want to be able to have those people before we begin.
And just a follow-up question, are you running it kind of the same model as a safe place where you want to keep it small, or what's the capacity, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we want to have it at least 6 to 10 people. We don't want to have it too big. Safe place is more of a drop-in where we've had anywhere from 3 to like 10, 12. So we want to try and keep it between the 6 and 10. That way we can keep it more personal and have everyone have a chance to talk and feel comfortable enough and not a large group.
Okay. All right. Any other challenges you can think of?
Not really. We're just right at the moment we're going to start putting together a screening assessment. We've been working with the psychologist that's here at Family Services, and she's going to work with us to help create the screening and then also go over the screening once it's completed and once the participants pass it in too, just to make sure that they're safe enough and in a good enough spot to attend the group.
Okay. And is that screening tool something you can share potentially with the group once it's developed and drafted? Okay.
I wouldn't see why not.
Okay. All right. So if you could do me a favor, if you could press *6, you'll mute your line, and then we'll move to Tapestry and hear some of their experiences with the Recovery Learning Center.
Sure, thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. So Tapestry, if you're on the line, please press *7 to unmute, and hopefully you'll be able to share some of your experiences with us. I'm not sure. I think you did.
Hi, good morning.
Okay, hello. How you doing?
Sorry.
It's okay.
So thank you for doing this call. So Tapestry has worked for several years with the recovery learning community on groups for alternatives to suicide. And as Allison said, they have one in Pittsfield, Northampton, Greenfield, and Springfield. And the catchment for those support groups is that one is that they're peer-led. It sounds like most people are using sort of that model of having somebody who has lived experience. But the groups aren't really, I don't want to use the term marketed, but for lack of a better term, marketed for people who have attempted, but also for people who are challenged or dealing with suicidal thoughts. So sometimes people may be struggling and with thoughts of suicide, but haven't actually attempted the suicide. So it's a little bit more encompassing. The peer-led model, I think, is valuable because I also think that there's an investment to continuing in making the groups kind of go along. One of the things that I've noticed over the years is that the peers who facilitate the groups never cancel the group. So even if the group meets and it comes Thanksgiving time and it's the night before Thanksgiving, that group still meets, you know. So when they say they're going to do 52 groups a year, they do, you know. So it's different. There's a different, I think, investment in making the groups continue along. Another thing is that over the years we have increased. We started when I first took over this grant and was working with the RLC. We had a group in Northampton, in Greenfield, and then we've sort of added one in Springfield, and now we just recently added one in Pittsfield. And one of the things I've noticed is that sometimes it starts off very slow with just a few people, and then it sort of is cyclic. Sometimes we'll have 12 people attend for 2 or 3 months every week, and then it'll drop down to maybe only 3 or 4 or 5. And I found that if you sort of ride that through, to not get discouraged by, oh, well, it's only 2 people. Well, that kind of changes, and I think you need to kind of let that, or I have found that letting that sort of ride, and there'll be a shift in it. As far as recruitment, one of the things that I think that has been beneficial is really letting providers know. We have had the group, the RLC, come in and do presentations at our coalition meeting, and we've also encouraged them to do other conferences and things to let providers know that this is a resource that they can refer people to and that people can engage in. And so making sure that we are, you know what I mean, putting this on listservs and other resource listings that people can have access to helps in that. We have done some print advertising. I don't think that was overly successful, but again, it did get the word out a little bit with that. And then the other thing that we do is provide support, clinical supports for our facilitators. So quarterly, the peers who facilitate the group come together and they have a meeting of a sort of a support group for themselves, and that's done quarterly with a mental health clinician, just to kind of process the work that they're doing that is very important and sometimes can probably challenge it for them. We do a model, or actually the RLC, because Tapestry doesn't actually run the group, the RLC does. They do a model where they have 2 facilitators so that they can kind of support one another. And if somebody's feeling challenged that night who's in the group, you know what I mean, somebody can step out and the group can continue on with the facilitator on board. And they have their own training, which they do a couple of times a year. As a matter of fact, they have one coming up for peer facilitators of the group. So that's kind of the model that we go with and we've been using for several years. And like I say, it started before I even came on board with the grant. But it has grown from 2 groups to now there's 4. And they actually do a wonderful job. I got to give a credit to the RLC because it's really their work. So that's that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. So if you could mute your line back, so *6. Okay. We'll move on to Samaritans on the Cape and the Islands. And Stephanie, if you're on the call, press *7 to unmute your line.
How's that?
We can hear you.
Okay, thanks. Brandy, I lost audio a little bit when you were first explaining how this is going to work, but I think from listening to the other comments, I'm up to speed, I hope. So so you want to know challenges and successes, yes, right?
Uh-huh.
Really, the only challenge that we've had so far is participation, and that sounds like it might be an across-the-board issue. Mm-hmm. But we currently have 3 people ready for our program. They've done the intake, and they're ready to begin. We're going to start our program on April 7th. And as you said at the beginning, it is an 8-week program. Initially, I thought a big problem would actually be finding a location for it because we all know that people are still can be a little nervous around this topic, but we were really lucky to immediately get a place at a library, which is nice because it's kind of a neutral territory. We also had a lot of promotion through 3 newspaper articles in all of our local papers, which I thought would really generate a lot of buzz and maybe get more people to come forward and participate. But as I said, we currently have 3. We would like to have 5, somewhere between 5 and 8. 3 is enough, of course, to get going. So we'll see what happens in the next couple weeks on that. We did a lot of promotion through our network of people that we work with here on the Cape, through the Cape and Island Suicide Prevention Coalition and the Women's Healthcare Task Force and Community Health Network and Cape Cod Hospital, anywhere and everywhere we could send it out. What we're doing is our model. What we're planning on is we have an attempt survivor. His name is Jeff House, who's very involved with AFSP and also with the Plymouth Suicide Prevention Coalition. He's going to be one of our co-facilitators, and then Kathleen Shine O'Brien, who is an LMHC, she is going to be the other co-facilitator. So we do have a clinician in place and someone who has a lot of experience and background in suicide prevention training, a lot of formal training. So one of the challenges or one of the concerns I have that I haven't luckily been faced with yet is that what happens if we get interest from a participant that may not be ready to be a part of our group that starts in April. Maybe they're not far enough removed from their attempt, or they're just, for whatever reason, they're not ready for that group, and we don't have anything in place for that yet other than the regular resources that we would give to anyone. So I see at some point in time perhaps there being a need for another group, or perhaps even a group for family members who have attempted, because I think that's kind of a gap here in our area too. So,
well, Stephanie, save that question, because we'll ask the entire group and see whether anyone on the call has any recommendations if they've dealt with that very same question.
That sounds great. Yeah. Other than that, it is going incredibly well, and we're really excited, and we're ready to get going. And it's been very well received in the community, and I think it's such an obvious thing that people have missed here. The need for it, I mean, prior to that I think that everybody is really on board. So we've been met with a lot of positivity around it so far.
Okay, thank you so much, Stephanie. So again, like everyone else, if you could press *6 to mute your line back. We'll now move on to Haywood Hospital. And again, press *7 to unmute. Haywood.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, just press your volume up a little bit.
That good? Hello?
Or just speak a little bit louder.
Hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Hello everyone. Thanks for offering this opportunity. I just wanted to let all of you know that Haywood Hospital recently, under the grant that we've received through the Department of Public Health, we have established our support group. Our second meeting is scheduled for next Tuesday. It meets the fourth Tuesday of every month. It's from 6:30 to 8 o'clock, and it is held right here at the hospital in one of our very nice conference rooms. And it is facilitated, you mentioned earlier, it's facilitated by a gentleman who has a history of attempt, and he is a veteran. He has a very interesting life story. Very happy that he's on board. He's very excited about it. He took the initiative to meet with he called this person a certified peer specialist who has background in facilitating groups. So he met with this individual just to help prepare himself for his own position as facilitator of our group. And he's very enthused, and I feel very fortunate to have him available to us. I am also present at the support meetings as a social worker. I am there as a resource for the group and also to assist the facilitator in any way. So we're looking forward to the second meeting. We had one person attend the first meeting, so our attendance also is light. However, people have told me that oftentimes these numbers increase as time goes on, so I'm hopeful that more people will come forward. We began the whole process by letting people know about it in the community. We developed a brochure. We had a front-page article in our local newspaper that featured the grant that I'm working under, as well as the information about the support group. We have a weekly notice appear in our newspaper advertising the group and welcoming people. In every possible newsletter that's available, whether it's a hospital newsletter or various agencies have newsletters. There was a community health fair, which we were on. Opportunity and opportunity that's available to let people know about the group. We've grabbed at that opportunity. Also, under the grant that I'm working under, I am out in the community talking with school systems, talking to elderly groups, agencies, organizations that provide services to the elderly. And in my capacity as a social worker here at the hospital, I'm available to pass out, distribute information about the group in that capacity as well. So I feel like we're doing everything we can as far as letting the area know about it. We're hoping to build on our attendance, and also we hope to, as I say, increase patient. And I had another thought, and I just lost the thought. But at any rate, we're looking for. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. As far as challenges, one of the challenges, besides getting attendance up a little bit, the other challenge has been transportation, access to transportation. We have had an individual call saying she would love to attend the group, however, she doesn't have any means of transportation. So in our particular area, there are people that live on the outskirts of
and your connection is breaking up.
Oh, okay, sorry. I think
It's okay.
I think I'm all set.
Okay. So you were, just to repeat for those who may have not heard, you were saying some of the real challenges, as have been reiterated already, is attendance, increasing the numbers, and transportation issues, as you've had people contact you saying they'd like to attend the group, but they don't have a way to get there.
That's right.
All right. Thank you so much, Ann. So again, if you could mute your line, press *6. We'll now go to, last but not least, Community Counseling of Bristol County. And press *7 to unmute your line.
There may be more of us on the line. It's Ellen Bruder-Moore. And Anne-Marie, are you on the line?
I'm here.
Great. So Anne-Marie Matulis and Tracy Medeiros have been working very hard to develop the curriculum for the workshops that we're going to be offering. So I'm going to hand it over to Anne-Marie to describe the challenges and the excitement of what we're going to be doing. Go ahead.
Oh, great. Wait.
You've been working very hard on this.
I know that, but I was just about putting a piece of toast in my mouth when you said that. Ditto to some of what we've heard, but I guess I anticipated, because I have done work with attempt survivors. We did the documentary, A Voice at the Table. Even though, we started with a press release, gosh, it's probably 4 months ago now, and I've done local cable access. There's been notices, there's listserv stuff, but there was a part of me that wondered if a group of people who are so impacted by stigma and have lived so long in fear of coming into the light about being an attempt survivor, if they would respond to that yet. And I'm not sure. And I'm not sure that, I think it will be more word of mouth, or maybe just following it up with successes in documentation of that, taking care of productivity. What we started with was a concept of the people we targeted in the first place, the attempt survivors, were not even remotely close to their attempt. their last attempt. And that's something I learned when I was doing the film A Voice at the Table, because when I met with Craig, and then we interviewed Kara Anna and Desiree, and of course Tracy's right here in Taunton with us, and she is a certified peer specialist. This is what she does every day. What came out of that was the fact that there's a whole group of people, of attempt survivors, who may be years away from their attempt, but they don't know. They don't have anyone else to talk to. Sometimes their own families don't know that. So for whatever reason, that was the group of people that Tracy and I considered more than anything else that we were targeting. So it puts a different spin on it. It's clearly not clinical by any stretch of the imagination. It's more a relaxing but challenging retreat-style workshop once a month. And in so doing, we have changed the actual curriculum that I've written probably half a dozen times. Because as we worked with it and tried it on for size, we went, okay, that's too adolescent. No, that's too way up there. To bring it down to just, could people come in, enjoy a part of this, understand there's some seriousness to it, because the workshops vary. There are some that are very light, and there are others that are a little more serious and down to earth about self-inventory and self-evaluation. So that was the approach that we took, and we are finally ready to go. We've targeted April 25th. We haven't yet determined our location, and I think we all agree that's an important piece for a group of people who may be uncomfortable coming out into the light. No big signs out, this is the attempt survivor room. But it's not a program, it's not a support group in a standard manner. Tracy and I will co-facilitate the first pilot program. We hope to hold 3, April, May, June, before the cycle ends for this year, and then go back and we want the attempt survivors to, I don't care if they trash the curriculum, tell us what will work, and then start again perhaps in August, and then begin that next cycle through. So the challenges have been just being comfortable that we're on the right track. I have had an opportunity to talk to suicide attempt survivors from other parts of the country and sort of run this by them a bit. They love it. And they also, but several of them also offered us some suggestions to adapt and amend and change. So that's where we're going with it. We've researched a lot, did a lot of study of attempt survivors' writings and articles to pick out some of the pieces of it. So that's kind of where we're going. We're going to have a little bit of a presentation about it at the state conference, another pitch for the state conference, guys. And then we're bringing that same presentation to the Colorado Coalition's conference in Denver in May.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. And so what we'll do now is we'll kind of just open it up for discussion, questions and answers. I mean, there was a question that was posed earlier by Stephanie that I would like to revisit. There was the question of, what if you get an attempt survivor who is just not ready? They're not in a place to have a workshop or a group, but you still want to provide support. Does anyone on the line have any suggestions of what they've done, or any research they've seen, or any resources that are available? And again, if you want to talk, just *7 to unmute your line. If anyone wants to discuss anything, just *7 to unmute. Or not.
Randy, I'll go for it.
Okay.
You know, what I was asking everybody's feelings about that, because, you know, we have the standard supports and resources that we give people, you know, when they call our lines or that kind of thing. But I just don't feel like that's quite enough if somebody's actually taking that step to reach out to us. And maybe they're only 2 weeks out, maybe they've just gotten out from being hospitalized, and maybe we're not clinically ready to support that person in this type of a model. If anybody had any ideas about, you know, what else we could offer them. So
again, if anyone has any response, please press *7 to unmute your line.
It's Ellen Brudermore. Do you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So, I'm trying to understand, you're saying they may not be ready for either what we're offering. Anne-Marie is saying it's, we're looking to work with folks who are further out from their attempt, or you're saying maybe not ready for your group that you're developing. Is this someone that you think is in need maybe of some structured day treatment, or are they ready to go back to their work but need some clinical support? I'm trying to understand what it is you think that this person might benefit best from. At our agency, we have DBT support at our day treatment that might benefit some people. I think finding out what will work best for them to move forward in their life is probably, important to hear where they're at in their recovery and what their needs are.
Thanks, Ellen.
Yeah.
Randy, can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, gosh, I'm going to have to watch what I say today then, because I'm unmuted right now. Ellen, I'm thinking, too, we're kind of looking at the participants in our group being a little further out, probably 4 to 6 months out from a hospitalization or an attempt. But I have been asked by some of the behavioral health people within the hospital, what would we do if part of a discharge might include being a participant in this program. And I'm not a clinician, so I don't know if we would be able to offer that level of support to someone as a participant in this group. I do think that if they had the other supports you're talking about in place, that this could be a beneficial additional support. But if they don't have those other pieces in place, I'm concerned that we wouldn't be able to support them in a way that they, at a level that they would need.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, what other supports or resources would we be able to give them other than our group? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's why I was trying to get a sense of, where people are at in their lives. I mean, some people return to work, they're able to, and others may need more structure in their lives related to whatever their needs are, using other agency supports, like I said, a clubhouse, a day treatment program, a work employment-focused supports, and then clinical services other than these. But some folks just need to, move forward in their lives and have wraparound other types of supports in addition to your group, from agencies and family involvement, family support groups, things like that. I guess it's on a case-by-case basis on what that individual, where they're at, and what would best meet their needs.
Ellen, can I ask you one other question, too,
Sure.
About that? I guess I'll put you on the spot. We're thinking that participants need to be several months out from their hospitalization or their attempt. But how do you feel about that? Everybody does progress at a different rate. People are ready at different points in their life. So I'm of two minds about this time frame, this limitation, so to speak, that we might put on people that are wanting to participate. Do you have any ideas on that?
Well, I've always been about not putting limitations on people. That's my opinion. I think that the person themselves has the right to make some choices and have the opportunity to participate. There a lot of programs have guidelines and restrictions, and I personally think the person themselves has the right to, I don't like to use the word fail, but the right to try, and depending on where they feel they're at in their recovery, there has to be some guidelines, of course, in any kind of program that we run. But I do feel that people deserve the opportunity to try and work things through. and we are responsible for providing the resources, the community resources, the opportunities, the programs, the employment opportunities, the school, all of the agencies and resources need to be there to wrap around the person.
Mm-hmm.
But it's up to them to move forward and take on what they feel they can handle with our support. That's
good. Thank you. I'm a firm believer in self-determination too, and I just thought maybe I was missing something, but that reinforces what I think. Thank you.
Yes.
This is Jeff House. Can I jump in for just a second here?
Just 1 second before you
Okay.
get started, Jeff.
Yeah.
We would like to make sure we get to other responses and questions, so if you can make it brief, that'd be really great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can be real brief.
Okay.
I'm Jeff House. I'm working with Stephanie on the CAPE program, and thank you, Tracy. That's basically what I've been kind of wanting our program to be more open. And I think that if somebody calls and asks to be in the support group, I think that says a whole lot about how ready they are to be in a group.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you. This is Allison. Just a few more quick resources. There's a suggestion from someone on the call to have someone have a befriending call from Samaritans, perhaps at a scheduled time. There's also the Warm Lines and the Recovery Learning Communities. I think the closest one is in Taunton to you, Stephanie.
Oh, great.
They're, a peer-run group with many people who have attempted and support each other in lots of different ways. So.
Okay, great. That's good, Allison. Thank you.
Sure. Yes. So anyone else have any other questions? Anything they really want to bring to the group to discuss? Again, just press *7 to unmute. And all of you who your lines are unmuted, please remember they are unmuted. So keep the noise in the background to a minimum.
This is Ron. I had a question for those who, what do folks do when you've got someone in the group and it's now week 4 or 5 and you're really sensing that it's really detrimental to them, that they are becoming more suicidal, or how do you manage that when someone's been accepted and then you feel that you need to ask them to take a break from the group?
Ron, it's Anne Marie. I'll jump in on that. Both Tracy and I are assist trainers. So one of the things that we have already talked about is keeping our eye on people, and then use the very skills that we have that we train other people in, and that is very gently and quietly take the person aside. Because even if we're talking, I disagree a little bit with some of the, and with Alan and Jeff on the other, because we expect that the people who are going to be in our workshop are removed. Sorry, something's breaking up here.
Yes, Anne-Marie, you're breaking up a little bit.
Yep. I'm not quite sure what happened.
Okay, now you're clear.
All right. So we've talked about that at length, about what do we do? And our knee-jerk reaction, I think is the healthy one, is that we're assist trained, and our job is to recognize that before it gets to the point of a crisis, and then do exactly what we're supposed to do as assist trainers and as caregivers, and that is to help that person get the help that they need. Because we don't expect anything we're doing to be particularly triggering either. But then we're talking about our group, our workshops are not going to be dealing, 4 to 5 months would not qualify, and I have to use that word. We're not looking at people who are 4 to 5 months, but more 4 to 5 to 6 years removed. Because there's a whole category of attempt survivors out there who have never had an opportunity to be in a room with other people, but they are already in living life. So it may be I may have a slightly different perspective on things. That's it.
Okay. Ron, do you have a follow-up question, or does anyone else have any questions they'd like to ask of the group? We have about 10 minutes remaining, so we'd like to make sure we have an opportunity to get to anyone who does have any questions.
No, I'm good, Brandy. Thanks.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. This is Allison. I guess I can pose a question to you, something I'm curious about. I know, Bob, at Tapestry, they've been partnering with the recovery learning community of Western Mass and had a lot of success with that partnership. And I know many of you are partnering with other organizations or coalitions, which is great. And I'm wondering also if anyone's partnering with your local RLC.
No.
This is Eileen Davis in Metro West. Our local RLC is interested in partnering with our coalition to get something like this going. And they've expressed already some of what Ron just mentioned, but I think we would certainly behave in a way that any of the survivor groups behave as well. You know, when there's a little unrest or a little discord and escalation of emotion. I think survivor groups have been so underway for such a long time that we have some good practices with that kind of behavior. And I think setting up what was already mentioned, some sort of screening tools where there's a intake, there's some, not necessarily restrictions, but some guidelines, some soft criteria for where people are at would actually help that as well. So I would be interested, it was stated earlier, in seeing what some people are using for potentially for screening tools / intake criteria.
Thank you so much, Eileen, for that. Anyone else have any questions, comments, concerns? Now is the time.
Hi, this is Peggy Morris from the Berkshire Regional Coalition.
Hi, Peggy.
Hi. I wanted to make sure you could hear me. Allison just mentioned partnering with the recovery learning community, which is exactly what we have recently done. Just a couple of weeks ago, Kate Wolf, who is the community coordinator for the for the recovery learning community in our region, joined our board. So I really feel like at this point we can make strides in the area of the peer support group model and the newly started group in Pittsfield, which is our region. And I just also wanted to mention that next week Craig Miller will be presenting at Berkshire Medical Center, and we'll be showing the film. And it's part of a full day. The afternoon is more of a clinical presentation, which Dr. Sabo is going to be presenting on several models that are focused more towards the attempt survivor having a larger role in recovery. So, as far as the clinical piece and treatment. So he'll be presenting on the CAMS, CAMS, and a couple other models. So I just wanted to mention that even though we're sort of at the beginning of breaking into this category of a target population, we're kind of taking it off running here. So I hope to make strides. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peggy. So we have time for one more question. Is there anyone on the line who has a really quick question, comment they'd like to make? Going once? Going twice? Anyone?
Brandy, you know I couldn't let the opportunity go by. I just want to say thank you for this. I think it was very helpful, and I also wanted to really thank Deb Helms and the folks out at Merrimack Valley because they really, all of us, sat together, and I felt much more comfortable about working towards this after I met with Anne Marie and Ellen and Deb. So thank you to all of you for your help.
Thanks, Stephanie.
No, I agree. I think just that we've had this conversation is just it's awesome. Thank you.
And on that note, Anne Marie, thank you for the segue. We would like to know from anyone on the line, are there any future topics that you would like to discuss in this format in the coming months? As Allison and I, we definitely put it together if there are any topics that you're really interested, or a continuation of this topic. Maybe let's come back together in June and kind of look at, okay, so where are we now with our attempt survivor groups? And as well, just before we end, Allison will make some remarks, but I do want to bring your attention to, on the slide we have on the screen, there are just a sampling of some of the resources that we found. And again, when our page is developed, we will be listing them on our page as well. You know, the way forward, the voice at the table, which Anne Marie mentioned, the video that they put together, as well as some manuals that exist and some other resources. So thank you all so much. And I'll turn it over to Allison for just some comments.
Sure. Well, let's just take 1 minute. Does anyone have any ideas right now of future webinar topics, particularly things that you would like to hear from other providers, other things you're having challenges on, or any ideas?
This is Ellen Brudermore. I think more discussion on screening tools, you know, what everybody's using, and you know, how, especially we're working with screening for mental health and about to go live with our online screening tool. And I just think the concerns that are brought up are, well, what happens when people start using them online in the middle of the night? You know, just some of those concerns and how people are dealing with that.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else have any suggestions of topics that they'd really like to hear more about, and some group share opportunities? Sorry, can't hear. Anne, can you please speak up?
About now.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
I just want to thank you again for including me in this discussion, and just to thank you for offering this opportunity. It's been really helpful hearing from the others. I also had attended a regional meeting back in the fall, and I had an opportunity to talk to some of you, and I found that everyone's input was so helpful to me and helped me head in the right direction as far as establishing our group. And the only suggestion I would have is that we could do this again maybe in a few months to talk about progress that we've all made, and about the support groups and how they're all going.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Anne. And just to respect everyone's time, it is 11 o'clock now, so I'd like to go ahead and thank everyone for participating this morning. Thank you all. Your comments were well received, and we appreciate you being on the call. Everyone that participates, we will send you a follow-up email with the slides and a link to the podcast, because again, as I said, the webinar was recorded. In addition, again, shameless plug, be on the lookout for emails about any upcoming webinars and trainings being sponsored by DPH, particularly the conference, April 29th and 30th. Again, after you log out, take a few moments, complete an evaluation. It's a one-question evaluation. I hope that you gained a little bit more knowledge today about the process of starting and sustaining attempt survivor groups in Massachusetts. Again, thank you all for participating. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.